Okay, I want to show you an application for the actual point command which we discussed in the previous video. And now I just remembered that I forgot to go back to the multiple points choice on the draw pull down of the draw panel. If I grab draw and I grab multiple points, there's no difference between it and the point command other than the fact that it just keeps repeating. I can draw as many points as I want, and in this case, the only way to get out of here is to hit the escape key. That's the only way to end the multiple points command. I'm going to go up here and grab multiple points again, and I'm going to pick, and then I'm going to hit enter to try to end it, and you can see that it tells me it's an invalid point. This is because there really is no command called multiple points. This is just a macro, and it just repeats the actual point command over and over again until the escape key is hit. So it's not really the only way to, typically we end a command by hitting enter, but this isn't really a command, it's a macro, so I have to hit escape to get out of there. All right, now back to, let's just, I'll do an undo. And I'm just hitting the undo and then repeating it by hitting the enter key over and over again, just to get back to this. Now what I want to do is talk about, how you can use points without necessarily drawing them. I'm going to grab draw, and then I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to use this button right next to multiple points. This button here is a command called divide. You can type it in with a div, but once we get into 3 or 4 letters for shortcuts, I typically grab them from the menu just to save time. To select the object to divide, so I'll go ahead and pick this line, and then it asks me for the number of segments to divide it up into, and I'll say, well, I'll just say 5, and hit enter, and it divides that line up into 5 different segments. It really doesn't divide it up into 5 different segments. It just drops a point in to equally divide the overall length into distances, so to speak. If I hover on here, you can see that I am getting the whole object. So the object wasn't modified. All it did was lay a point down on there. And we know that we can snap to these points with the node object snap override. I can divide, I'll do a div. I can divide an arc. Let's divide this into 3. You always end up with 1 less point than what you said how many times you wanted to divide the object up, which makes sense when you think about it. But we can divide lines, we can divide arcs. We can also divide, I'm going to hit enter to repeat the last command. We can also divide circles. And if I divide a circle up into, let's just say 7, just to pull a number out of the air, it's going to start by laying a point down at 0 degrees, and then it's going to divide the length of the circumference up and put a point every, however many linear units along the circumference to equally divide that up. If I had a polyline, whoops, I forgot that I've got wide polyline set. I'm going to erase that, and I'll grab PL again, and I will pick a start point, and then I'll grab width, and I'll set the starting width and the ending width back to 0. And now I'll divide div. I'll divide this up into 4. And it goes along the whole length of the polyline, lays a point down. This, what's left in this whole segment, and then that much is equal to this straight segment right here. So it considers the vertices in there as it lays a polyline down. So that's your divide command. I'm going to undo a few things here just to get back to our initial drawing. And then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to grab my measure command. Measure also lays multiple points along an object, but instead of dividing the object up into equal length segments, it lays a point down every however many units you ask for. So if I pick this and I say specify the length of the object as, well, let's just say 1, every 1 unit it goes and lays a point down until there's not 1 unit left. Now it started here because that's where I picked the object. I'll undo, and then I will do a measure again, MEA if you're a shortcut typer. Whoops, I can't do that. That actually uses the measure geom command, which we talked about before. But I'll just pick it out of the shortcut menu, and then I'll pick over here, and again I'll say 1, and it starts measuring this way. So that's your measure command. Let's do measure, and the same thing's going to hold true on an arc. If I measure on a circle, I hit enter to repeat the command and pick this, and let's measure on a circle every 1 unit. It again starts at 0 degrees, but it doesn't lay a point down. It then goes and then lays a point down, point, point, point. So we got 1 linear unit along the circumference until there's no more linear units up to 0. So it kind of looks kind of goofy if you want. If you wanted a point at that 0 degree spot, you could grab your point command, and when it prompts you to pick a point, I will override my running object snaps, and I will use an object snap called quadrant. We haven't really talked about it, but quadrant is the 3, 6, 9, or 12 o'clock positions on a circle. So if I pick this, that's that 3 o'clock position, just in case you wanted close to an equal number. But if you wanted to start with a point, you have to draw it in there. So that's applications for the point command using the divide and measure tools.